All right, so before we write any code, I want to talk a little bit about what PHP is, what it's capable of, what it's used for, etc. So it stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor. Yes, the P actually stands for PHP. And it's an open source server-side scripting language that's used to primarily develop web applications. It can be used for some other things, but it's best known and best for web development. It's been around since 1994, and it's one of the most popular languages on the web. And it's still used by something like 70% of all websites that use a server-side language. And this includes content management systems like WordPress, frameworks like Laravel. These are all PHP-based. In fact, this course is kind of a precursor to my Laravel course, which will be released in the coming months. And PHP is used to build anything from a simple contact form to a full-blown social network. And it's also pretty easy to learn, and it has a ton of resources available. Getting set up is also pretty easy when you compare it to many other server-side languages. So let's go over how PHP actually works. So when a user goes to a website that is a PHP page, the web server recognizes that because the page has a .php file extension, which is unique in itself, that you can type in a URL that leads to a PHP page. You can't do that with something like Python or C#. So when it realizes it's a PHP page, it sends it to the PHP interpreter, and that PHP interpreter then reads the file and executes any PHP code that's found on that page, because that page can also have HTML in it. And that interpreter also has access to any databases that you want to use, as well as the file system, and then the output of that PHP code, which is in HTML format, is then sent back to the client, which sends it to the user's browser. Okay, so it's a server-side language, not to be confused with front-end JavaScript, which is a client-side language. So server-side means obviously it's executed on the server, the output is sent to the browser. And that's different from client-side JavaScript, where the code is actually executed in the browser. Okay, JavaScript can run on the server with tools like Node.js, but that's a totally different topic. But just know that with client-side code, the end user can actually see all of your code. All they have to do is go to the source. They can't see your PHP code, so anything you write in there, any database credentials you set, anything like that, can't be viewed through the browser. All right, so why use a server-side language in the first place? There's a lot of reasons, but these are kind of the big ones. So security, like I said, client-side code can be viewed by the end user. Code that's written on the server cannot. It's more efficient. It makes the browser not have to do as much work, and this is important for things like mobile devices. Database access, so if you're building any kind of complex application like an e-commerce website or social network, you're going to have to use a database. File system access, if you want to read and write to files, you can do that with PHP or just any server-side language. Authentication, so server-side code is needed for any kind of custom authentication, and that's usually done through sessions, which allow you to maintain user state and store user-specific data across multiple requests. And again, this is essential for features like user logins, shopping carts, personalized user experiences. So why use PHP? There's a lot of server-side languages out there, and I'm not one to say that you should use one or the other. I do love PHP. I also love Node.js and Python. I think that they all have their place, but these are just some reasons why I think that PHP is a good choice for a lot of developers. I won't say everybody. It's not the end-all be-all, but it is a good choice for a lot of people. And I'll talk more about which type of developers really go for PHP in a little bit. So it's very easy to learn, right? So not just the syntax, but also the setup and the environments and all that. You have a ton of flexibility. In fact, when using vanilla PHP, meaning no frameworks like Laravel or Symfony, it's so flexible that you can get yourself into trouble if you don't write clean code, because you can be open to certain security vulnerabilities and other issues. And we're going to go over that stuff in detail in this course. So you can create things really fast, real quick with PHP, which is why I think that it's the most popular language among freelancers. And as a former freelancer, I can tell you that getting projects out to clients in a timely manner is extremely important. PHP is completely open source. It has a great community. You can always find answers when you're having issues. PHP.net documentation is great, and it's a great resource as well. So easy web server integration. If you're using Apache or Nginx, it's pretty easy to get set up. And then HTML in PHP files. So this is something that is really unique to PHP, and the reason that you can just put HTML right into a PHP file is it was really designed to be kind of a templating language. So you can have a PHP file that contains HTML and then have tags, PHP tags, that you can wrap PHP code in to execute that on the server, and then the output of that is sent to the user's browser. And this is different than other languages where you need to use some sort of templating engine or a front-end framework like React or Vue. PHP in itself is pretty much a templating engine. And then database integration. And another thing that makes PHP great is that it has a ton of database support. It has drivers for MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB, and many more. And this makes it very easy to connect to a database and perform CRUD operations. We'll be using MySQL in this course, along with PDO, which is a PHP extension that allows us to connect and query our database really easily and very securely. All right, so PHP has been around for a long time, and it's gone through many changes. It definitely has its pros and cons. One of the biggest cons is that it's very easy to write bad code, as I mentioned in the last slide. This is because it's so flexible and you have so much freedom. You can write code that's very hard to read and maintain. So it's easy to write sloppy code, and it's easy to write insecure code. Now, with that said, the solution for this is to learn how to write clean code, and this is something that we'll go over in this course, and we'll be using a lot of object-oriented programming, which is really what you want to do if you're just using vanilla PHP. We'll also be using a lot of modern PHP features like namespacing and auto-loading. Now, another solution is to use a framework, specifically Laravel. Laravel is very, very powerful. It's built, obviously, it's built on PHP. It's very opinionated, and it forces you to write clean code. So most people that become PHP developers, they either go into the WordPress content management world, or they go into Laravel. All right, so if you're planning on like freelancing and building kind of basic websites, you want to use WordPress, but you want to know how to customize it, that's one way to go. If you want to build, powerful applications with really custom code, then Laravel is probably the way you want to go. This course is to really give you a good solid foundation in just vanilla PHP. Okay, and you can build applications, powerful applications, without a framework, which isn't very common in many languages. Like if you use Node.js, you have to use a framework if you're going to build something of any worth. So yeah, I mean, Laravel is such a great framework that even people that don't particularly like PHP do like Laravel. It's extremely clean, it's secure, very easy to learn. Like I said, I'll be releasing a Laravel course in the coming months, so stay tuned for that. But there are a lot of forgive me, but there's a lot of idiots on the internet that have really never used PHP. They just jump on the bandwagon and just trash it. Or if they have used it, they used it back in version 4 or something like that. It's improved a lot. It's gotten a lot more secure. So my advice would be not to listen to a lot of the idiots online, honestly. So who uses PHP? What type of developers and which jobs? So PHP is used by some of the giant companies like Facebook and Wikipedia. However, it's not extremely popular among FAANG-type companies. Where it really shines is in small to medium-sized businesses, and it's also very, very popular among freelancers. So if your goal is to become a freelancer, PHP is the language I would definitely suggest, because you can build things really fast, and that's what your clients want. And you can build just about anything. They don't care about the language. Your clients care about the end result. So PHP is also very popular among content management systems like WordPress, Drupal. WordPress accounts for a huge chunk of websites. When I was a freelancer, I would build WordPress websites, and knowing PHP really well helped me a lot. And it allows you to get in there and customize themes, customize plugins, and even create your own plugins. And web agencies also use PHP a lot. So if you're looking to get a job at an agency, PHP is a great language to learn. I'm not saying that you shouldn't learn PHP if you do want to work at a huge company, but it's not as popular as some other languages like Python and JavaScript at Amazon or Microsoft and places like that. It's one of the most popular for just about everything else aside from giant companies. And when you think about the number of companies around the country or around the world, I mean, there's a lot. So that's why it accounts for so much of the web. But that's it, guys. I just wanted to discuss some of this stuff before we jumped in. So in the next video, we're going to talk about getting PHP set up on your system.